Hello again, guys. All right, this is going to be video for page 15 of your Unit 1 notes. This video is going to be about the midpoint formula. So in the last video, we used the distance formula. This video is going to be on midpoint. It is another formula that you need to make sure that you're working on memorizing before we take the EOC. Okay, so I'm highlighting the formula that you need to work on memorizing. The midpoint formula itself is a formula that we use to help find the middle or the center of two ordered pairs. Okay, so when we see these problems, they are not going to tell you, please use the midpoint formula to find this answer. What they may say instead are some of these synonyms. What is the halfway point when I travel from North Carolina to South Carolina? Or where is the center of line segment A to Z? What's midway? Where's the middle? This one's going to be a special case. It does use the midpoint formula, just it uses it in a little bit different of a manner. Okay, but missing endpoint still uses the midpoint formula. It's just a bit different. Okay, so this is when you are given ordered pairs and you are asked to find the middle in some way, shape, or form, depending on what synonym they choose to use. Now, it is a midpoint formula, so your answer is a point. It is an ordered pair. So as far as your formula here, this helps you get the first part of your ordered pair, so this helps you get the X value. This helps you get the Y value. Together, they are an ordered pair. Okay, so please keep that in mind, that you basically have two answers. This is your X value, this is your Y value, and together they make the ordered pair point of where the mid or halfway point of your line segment is. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the four examples that we have on this page. So number one says, what is the midpoint of line segment MN when M is located at 7, -9, and N is located at 2, 14? All right, so I could grab some graph paper and I could graph this, and I could, if this were multiple choice, try to graph my answer choices and see which one looks like it's in the middle, in the center. I'm going to do a sketch, okay? So off to the side, I'm just going to do a quick little sketch. It's not going to be detailed or very accurate. It just gives me an idea of what we're working with. We start at M, which is at 7, -9. We travel to N, which is at 2, 14. That creates a line segment called MN. Okay? Where is the midpoint? So it's got to be somewhere in the middle. Okay? So if you were graphing this on graph paper and you had answer choices, you could graph this point, you could graph this point, and you could graph answer choice A, B, C, D and see which one looked like it was in the middle, in the center. Okay? So a way to work around this, if you need to find the midpoint, to find the exact middle of this line segment, I would go through and label these ordered pairs like we did with distance, but then put these points into this formula. So to find the middle X value, I'm going to add my X's together and divide it by 2. So X1 plus X2 divide that by 2. So 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 divided by 2. That's going to give you either the fraction of 9/2 or the decimal 4.5. So your choice as to if you want to write it as a decimal or a fraction. Both of them would be acceptable. And then I'm not finished. That's half of my answer. So I know that the midpoint is located at 4.5 something. We've got to find the other something. So to find the middle Y value, we add Y1 and Y2. So that's going to be -9 plus 14. Divide that or cut it in half. Okay, so negative 9 plus 14, that's going to be 5, and then 5 divided by 2. You can either leave it as 5 halves, or you can write it as the decimal 2.5. That's what 5 halves, or 5 over 2, is equal to. So the midpoint of line segment MN is 4.5, 2.5 as decimals, or 9 over 2 and 5 over 2. Okay? So that's how you find the midpoint. Number 2, what point is the center of line segment AB if this is A and this is B? So very similar to number 1, they just changed out the synonym they chose to use. So instead of saying what is the midpoint, they're asking what is the center. We're going to do the exact same thing though. So I'm going to label my ordered pairs. And because we are trying to find the center, this is where we would start, this is where we would end. I'm going to plug it in. Negative 1 plus 8. And then cut that in half. That's going to be 7 divided by 2, which is 3.5 as a decimal. You could leave it as 7 over 2, nothing wrong with that. And then the middle y value, I would add my y's. I have 4 being added to negative 5. Okay, when I do that, 4 plus negative 5 is going to be a negative 1, and then negative 1 divided by 2 is negative 1/2, which is 0.5. So again, either decimal or fraction is perfectly fine. And then write this as an ordered pair. So 3.5 and negative 0.5. If I use the decimal format as a fraction, it would be 7 over 2, comma, negative 1 over 2. Again, either one is fine. It does not matter. All right. Number 3. It's got a little bit more context with it. So Alex needs to go to the post office. The post office is halfway between home, so here's home, and the market. Where is the post office located? So it's already graphed for us, and if this were multiple choice, we could graph our answer choices and see does any of them look to be in the center, in the middle, okay? I got to grab my ordered pairs before I can do this formula. So I have home being located at negative 2, 3, and the market is at 2, negative 5. All right. So I am going to say this is x1, y1. I'm going to say this is x2, y2. Again, it doesn't matter if I wanted this to be x1, y1 and this to be x2, y2. It works out the same. Okay. So to find the halfway point, because that is my key word, I want to add my x's and divide by 2. So negative 2 plus 2 divided by 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0, and 0 divided by 2 is just going to stay 0. Then we're going to do the y's. So with the y's, I have 3. I'm going to add that to negative 5, so don't forget your signs. 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Okay, so the midpoint should be 0, negative 1. Let's make sure that that makes sense. So if I come over here, I go to 0, which is my origin. 0, 0 is my origin, but I want to go down to negative 1. So right here. Okay, and basically you want to look, does this line segment right here look to be the same length as this other line segment right here? Because this has to be in the center. And as long as this is in the center of that line segment, then we are good to go. If you were to graph it and you would notice that it's over here or it's over here, it's not in this pathway, then you've done something wrong. Okay? Or process of eliminate with your answer choices, you would be able to see which ones just don't fit and you can rule those out. Okay, so those are 3 examples of how we can use the midpoint formula. Just pretty cut and dry there. Get your ordered pairs, plug them in, cut it in half, you got your answer. Number 4, this is the one that's that special case that I mentioned earlier. All right, so line segment MN has a midpoint of 4.5, 2.5. So it's telling you the middle. It's line segment, so drawing a sketch, MN. It has a midpoint. We are not trying to find the midpoint. It's already told us the midpoint. So the midpoint, I'm going to say right here, is at 4.5, 2.5. M is at 7, -9. What ordered pair represents endpoint N? So we're trying to find the other side of this line segment. We know where it starts. We know where the halfway mark is. We do not know where it ends. So I'm just going to make that X and Y because it's things I don't know, and that's what variables are for. They're to hold the spots of things that we don't know at the moment. When I go to label this, I label my starting point X1, Y1. My ending point is X2, Y2. But this is the middle. It's the midpoint. This is your XM and your YM. So if I'm using my midpoint formula, and my midpoint formula starts as XM equals, that's what I got to do down here. XM equals X1 plus X2 divided by 2. Okay. Technically, I do the same thing for my Y's. I have YM equals, so it's going to be 2.5 equals. And then we have Y1 plus Y2. Now from here, you can either guess and check. 7 plus what divided by 2 helps me get 4.5. -9 plus what divided by 2 gets me 2.5. Or we've made ourselves a little equation here, and we're still in Unit 1, which is solving equations. We can go through and work this out. If that's the path I take, and that's the path I'm taking right now, I have to do the opposite, those inverse operations. So right now I have a fraction, and that fraction means I'm dividing. Okay? The inverse of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. 4.5 times 2, that's going to be 9. 7 plus x, just bring that on over. And the dividing by 2 and the timesing of 2, since they're inverses, they help cancel out that fraction. And then finish getting x by itself, just subtract. So you multiply and then you add or subtract. Gives me 2. Do the same thing for the y values. If this were multiple choice, this might be enough for you to stop and pick your answer, but we're going to finish this out. Same thing. This means that there's division. So the inverse of division is multiplication. Do that on both sides. 2.5 times 2 is going to be 5. -9 plus y gets carried over or down, depending on how you're writing this. And then that's a -9, so add, and we get 14. So n is located at 214. Okay. Now, if you notice something along the way, this is actually number 1, just given different information. So number 1, I gave you M and N and had you find the midpoint. Well, I just gave us different information, and we still came up with the same ending. Okay. So, again, you'll be able to use your answer choices. You can guess and check. You can use graph paper or Desmos, because you could plot these points in Desmos and see what realistically looks like an answer. So we have different options and resources that we can use apart from solving it like an equation. And those are going to be some things that we're going to practice when we get to our practice in class. If you happen to have any questions about this page or your practice that we do in class, please make sure you ask your teacher.